So about 5 months ago, I made a video called Revolutionary Road Analysis. And that's been one of the most popular videos I've ever made. Popular, I guess, just defined as most viewed, most liked. And recently, there's been a couple people who randomly commented on it, and so I guess it's the YouTube algorithm is allowing it to be found. And I just wanted to address some of the comments that have been made and sort of revisit it a bit, even though for the most part, I would say in the past 5 months, my overall opinion hasn't changed. I just kind of want to flesh out these ideas a little bit more. So let's read one asshole comment. I don't get your point about if they went to Paris, how is there only the option to do rampant casual sex, a lot of drug use, and travel the world? Where did you get drug use from? Were the characters drug addicts, or was it showed that they had a history of drug use? No. So where did you get that from? Rampant casual sex with each other? Okay, what's wrong with that? Yeah, this brings up the other point that I've talked about a lot. It's like, is there a point in sort of engaging with people who either won't honestly address your arguments or are actually too fucking stupid to think critically or think deeply about anything? And I guess the short answer is no, there's not a point in engaging. But I guess if you have, if you're quick, if you're quick to anger, then you don't have the discipline to just be like, you know what, this is not even worth it. And last, traveling the world, aka the worst thing in the world to you, right? Yeah, never said that, you dumb fuck. Kill yourself. What the fuck is the problem with traveling? And I mean kill yourself in, Minecraft, as Spino would say. What the fuck is the problem with traveling the world, dude? LOL, question mark. Okay, why'd you say LOL with a question mark? You dumb fuck. Are you not sure if you're laughing? Kill yourself in Minecraft. Didn't know it was a crime or something dangerous no one ever does. Like what? She hated all of middle America suburbia, and you really can't blame her because it seems pretty fucking boring. So, yeah, this has nothing to do with what I was saying in the video. My point is what is the paradise in Paris? And so I came up with some ideas. Are they going to have, is sex going to be better there? Are the drugs better there? What is it? Is it the buildings? Is it, is traveling what provides someone purpose and meaning and why? And I was thinking through these things and trying to discuss and dissect what will be different in Paris. Okay? And so I was going through the list of some things that I see as sort of hedonistic pleasures, right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Now, let's say we put that aside. Maybe I should have focused more on things that people think are meaningful in some deeper way, right? So, helping others, political pursuits, right? Okay, so how about that? Were they planning to join a political revolution in Paris? Is that why? They were fighting for freedom of some sort? Going off to war of some kind? Or were they going there to help the poor? Did they think about that? Was it about helping the poor or helping people that are suffering? And the answer obviously is no, but even let's say theoretically that was the reason, right? Paris is where they wanted to help people or something. Well, you could help people wherever you are. There's people suffering right where you are, if the pursuit really had to do with that per se. But this is all just theoretical, right? The point always goes back to, though, what is so good somewhere else that's not here? And I've talked about this a lot, about the idea, should you move, should you not, whatever. And it's not a yes or no answer. And obviously, if you love the ocean and you fucking can't get enough of it, you should try to live by the ocean. And that goes for any number of things. If Paris has something, maybe there's just a fucking donut shop in Paris, and you get so much joy out of that, and they don't have anything like it anywhere else, then yeah, you should live in Paris. And it's the same thing with anywhere else, right? If what brings you joy in your heart exists somewhere else, and you can't get it where you are, you should do what you can to go to that place. But what I'm criticizing is, one, this caricature of marriage as being the ultimate hell, this idea of traveling the world, or some, like a cliche of like Paris, right? What gets more cliche than Paris being the ultimate paradise. And so it's that sort of thing. I think when we're younger, and this sort of reminds me of the whole atheist thing. When I was a teenager, maybe a little bit in my early 20s, it's like, okay, yeah, you see the surface level bullshit of religion and people being hypocrites, the logical hoops people are jumping through and all the rest. And so you kind of rebel against it, and perhaps rightfully so. But then the just generic atheist position, or just living with the purpose of being anti-religion, for most people besides Richard Dawkins, gets kind of fucking boring. And you realize that that's just as empty as the issues you had with religion to begin with, right? Your anti-theist position is just as hollow as what you found hollow about religion to begin with. If you're actually a critical thinker and you take it to its furthest point, you're like, well, what now? This isn't of any use, really. And so the same thing goes for this idea about how one ought to live in terms of, well, I've been sold everyone's pressure. First of all, we're no longer living in the 1950s. Now, I know Revolutionary Road is taking place, I guess, in that time, so you could say, well, yeah, this is showing that time. But it's still a commentary on present-day time, and I guess some families or some people still look at it as the ultimate dream is to have the white picket fence and the marriage and 2 kids or whatever. But what I'm saying and how this relates to the atheist thing is, you can see all the things on the surface. You see couples fighting. You see, oh yeah, that looks kind of boring, the life in the suburb. Or the Leonardo DiCaprio's job in the movie, you know, he describes it as being boring and it sounds like it's a nothing thing. And that stuff is all, in some sense, things that I think are valid and interesting to contemplate. And the instinct is, and probably should be, to have some sense of rebellion against that, right? But then you have to stop and think. You have to stop and think and really go deeper. And this is what most people don't do that I find obnoxious. It's kind of like when people see they see someone who's an over-the-top racist, right? And then they've taken this sort of anti-racist position and they've made their whole life about that, and then they're looking for microaggressions and all that. It's sort of like, I almost would rather be around someone who's just adopted the very basic cultural norms and expectations of sort of quote-unquote mainstream society, rather than someone who has done the sort of teenage rebel thing and then hasn't looked past that, right? So the teenage rebel thing in the sense of like, well, what everything mom and dad says, I don't like it, so the opposite must be true. Let me just go let me take an ideological stance that's in polar opposite and then take that to its furthest point into nothing land. So the idea is that there's these movies that portray having a relationship and having children and living in a nice house is the ultimate nightmare. Now, one, that's certainly not the case for everyone. A lot of people wouldn't find that to be the ultimate nightmare. And obviously what I'm commenting on in my analysis of the movie is not really just about what's the psychology of each individual character. What I was talking about is a cultural message that's pushed, right? And it reminds me of another movie I've commented on, kind of joked about, a video on Into the Wild. Once again, it's like just because he might see the destructive, toxic nature of his parents' relationship, and I don't know if what kind of abuse was there or whatever he didn't like about his parents' lifestyle, doesn't necessarily mean that it makes sense to take money and literally burn it, right? To have a holier-than-thou attitude towards pretty much everyone in society, and then go run off to Alaska on a relatively poorly planned journey where you're going to end up dying of some combination of poison, starvation, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, sorry, I should have said spoiler alert. But yeah, he dies. Anyway, I never said anything about them having a history of drug use. I never said it would be wrong if they had rampant casual sex. What do you mean? You can't have, what does that mean? Rampant casual sex with each other? What are you talking about, you imbecile? No, I don't consider people that are married, the sex they have, I wouldn't classify that as casual sex anyway. And no, obviously I wasn't condemning that. What I was saying is the opposite. They should fuck a lot where they are in the suburbs. Maybe they need to do some kinky shit in the suburbs, right? And if she hates the suburbs, if she hates marriage, if she doesn't like kids, whatever she doesn't like about her life, well, one, either toughen up too fucking bad. You had children, now you better fucking take care of them if you want to be a decent human. Or I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, maybe you didn't want to live in this suburban neighborhood. Maybe that's not what makes you happy. Well, yeah, then you got to work that out, whatever. But the real point is, like I've said, is when you really stop and think, you realize if they go to Paris, they're still going to want to have a place to live. They're still going to want to get a house. Or what's going to be different? Is it going to be a commune? Is it going to be a condo? They're going to still want a decent place to raise their children. They're still going to be with each other. And in a lot of ways, the things that they don't like about each other aren't going to change because they've changed locations. Whatever those things are. Now, maybe someone could argue, well, what she doesn't like about him is that he's not, venturing into the unknown. He's not adventurous enough. And then but would he still see, once he's in Paris, is he going to seem really interesting and adventurous once he's just in a house there? And he's going to have to probably find some job there, right? And what's going to make that job more meaningful? Does Paris have a lot more meaningful jobs? Maybe he'll find something that's a little less boring. But will it be something that makes her pussy wet enough? So, that's really the point there. And let's see, I think there was another comment in that same thread. Someone commented the other day. My personal opinion is that April needs to get away not only from the suburbs, but also the social obligations. The social obligations of a woman in her time were suffocating to her, to have to pretend to be the perfect wife. So these are to me, just empty sentiments. What are you actually saying here? To pretend to be the perfect wife, as opposed to what? As opposed to what? As opposed to being a shitty wife, like she turned out to be? As opposed to being a verbally abusive wife, or an ungrateful wife, or maybe a wife who fucks the neighbors, or I don't know, what kind of wife should she be? I don't know. In the suburbs where she lived, it was odd for a woman to work. In Paris, she would be the one in the family working, blah, 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 blah. Is that really what it is? I don't know. Maybe. I don't remember the specifics of the movie. I guess, she was a failed actress, I think. So maybe she would have gotten success in Paris. Or maybe she would have been a failed actress in Paris. I don't know. But, some people say, it's about... Someone else commented, too, I think. Maybe she was bored because she wasn't working. Is that really what it is? There are a lot of women who don't like their jobs very much, right? So I don't think everyone finds that their jobs, especially in these times where things, as I've talked about in other videos, the way, if you're TED-pilled, you already know this stuff, people. Get TED-pilled! But the sort of monotonous jobs of modern society, where you're a cog in a machine, would she, and let's put this sort of in modern times, would April have been happy if she was shuffling around packages in Amazon all day, standing on her feet, having back pain? Oh no, not that. Something else. But someone's going to do that job at Amazon, right? But just not her? But why not? Why don't we talk about the realistic thing, right? That's the realistic job. If she can't get money doing acting, which most people can't, they're going to do something kind of like that maybe, right? Not everyone's going to have a job that is this sort of Hollywood version of exciting. And it's not to say go suck it up and work for Amazon. You do what you got to do, but that's not really the point. The real point is that what are you offering? And this ties back into the atheism thing. Eventually, people did have to ask, even though atheists didn't want to have to say this, they just wanted to say, we don't have to offer anything. We're just refuting your beliefs. But actually, that's wrong. You do have to offer something. Because if all you do is you come around and you kind of, you poke some holes in logic, which I've done that all, I'm not trying to act like I haven't done that. And I still will do it, right? If someone's very obnoxious or uses their religion in a way that I find disgusting or irritating, or to try to control me in some way that I don't want to be controlled, of course I'm going to start pulling out the logic and tell them how they're full of shit, whatever. But the real point is, in a sort of bigger picture sense, just snatching something away that means something to people, that they rely on, without actually having something equally meaningful to take its place results in a lot of problems. And I'm not going to get too deep into it here. I've talked about it before, but things you see in our society today, things in the political realm, the way people get swept up in new stupid ideologies that personally I find much more destructive than the common man's religious beliefs. So it's the same thing with this. You want to snatch away this sort of, you want to say marriage and kids and living in the suburbs is the ultimate hell, and you want to snatch it away. It's easy to refute this stuff and to shit on it, right? And a lot of people, the comment they make on a lot of these Revolutionary Road videos, the joke, the repetitive joke is, this is what would have happened to Rose and Jack, because same actors, DiCaprio and Winslet from Titanic, if they both had made it off the Titanic and stayed together, this is what would have happened, to their romance. And in some ways, that message resonates with people because, yes, relationships are hard. They can get boring. There can be fighting, and maybe everyone shouldn't be in a relationship, right? But it doesn't mean that whatever the opposite of that is, I don't know what that is, right? But if you actually have to identify it, and you actually have to put forth a vision for a good life, then you open yourself up to criticism. Then you open yourself up to, we can make a movie about that and show how that turns out to be the ultimate hell, right? And so that's the thing. It's easy to make a movie or dish out propaganda showing where everything is amiss. It's much harder to put forth a vision of what the right way to be is. And in some ways you could say in this video, well, aren't you being hypocritical? You're just kind of criticizing Revolutionary Road or people who make movies that push that agenda. What's your message? And that would be valid criticism. I would only say that I at least have the humility to say that sometimes I don't know what the right answer is. And in a lot of ways, it is different for different people. What one person's ultimate hell might be another person's ultimate heaven. But really, the way life often works, for most people, most of the time, is that it's a lot more nuanced than that, and it's a mixture of good and bad. All within one day, or a month, or a year, there's ups and downs. And that's the truth. That's the real reality of life. So to me, a more interesting portrayal of some of these subjects is one that is a lot more nuanced. And that those are the movies that really move me and are interesting and inspiring to me. If you want to show a movie that's hard-hitting about an accurate reflection of reality, well, yes, for some people, maybe Revolutionary Road does portray that to them. But I think for most people, most of the time, what would really connect and resonate, and it's actually an honest message, is that things in life are complicated. And there very rarely are easy answers.